For now, it's time for us to dive into this morning's topic for the hot seat. Have you ever dreamt about being a professional athlete or sportsman? Tim, no, never.
Not really.
Not your thing.
Not my thing.
Not your thing.
I'm not that competitive.
I used to dream about that. Then
being a race car driver.
Being a race car driver, being a footballer. Then I realized, as you age, you realize, wait a minute, you've got a problem with coordination, hand-eye.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
You start to grow taller, become more clumsier. Then you give up, so you turn to finance. But this morning is an interesting topic because we're talking about professional racing. You see these guys come in during the F1 season, and even during that, there's the Porsche races as well in the day. I mean, is there a standard salary package? Is there an interview process to become a professional racer? Is there a starting pay?
Like what I said earlier, you're probably backed up by a big company right behind you, but I'm not sure if I'm right. So I guess that's what we're here to find out this morning.
To tackle our Singaporean questions this morning.
How much money do you make?
We dive into the business of professional racing with Singaporean professional racer Yuey Tan. He races in the Porsche Carrera Cup Asia. Good morning and welcome to the studio.
Good morning, Elliott. How are you, man?
Doing good. Good to see you in, what would you call this? So I know the race gear is the overall, and this is like what, the out of racing gear?
Yeah, this is just the Carrera Cup theme for the 2019 season. So make us look smart, make us look presentable.
We do appreciate you dressing up for the occasion. Tell us a little bit about how you got into racing, and of course a little bit more about your team.
Yeah, well, I'm Singaporean racing driver, and I actually grew up in Australia, in Adelaide. And back then, when I was a kid, the Formula One World Championship season finale was in Adelaide. So they crowned all the world champions. So every year it was pretty riveting to see how it unfolded. And with the old point system, normally there was never a winner until the season finale.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting for me to watch as a kid. Formula One wasn't the luxury liner that it is today. I think a ticket was $12 back then. So I got into it by watching Formula One and had the opportunity to be in contact with some of the sporting greats like Ayrton Senna and Nigel Mansell and people that went on to become like icons, but we were living in the middle of it. So that's where my interest in motor racing started.
All right. Well, I've spoken to athletes about this before, and many of them talk about the funding that is required to become a top athlete. For tennis, for example, even for figure skating, it involves a lot of money, and if you don't get to the top, then you don't sort of earn that money back from sponsorship. Is it the same thing in racing? How do you fund this kind of career?
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. I mean, it's probably far worse in motor racing, actually, because all the money that we raise goes into the car way before we see any of it. And because it's such a performance-based, the machine is a performance-based thing, so the more money you put into it, the faster it goes, and obviously the faster it goes, the better chance you have of winning. So it's never ending. Every season to raise money is as hard as the last one, or harder. And there's no real correlation about how these things go,
So how do you raise money then?
Yeah, well, basically, in the Porsche Carrera Cup, I'm very lucky to be inside the Porsche Carrera Cup Asia because it's 16 years old now. It's got a very, very strong marketing platform that's been built. Channels of communication to the outside world, how their media, how their content gets made, so on and so forth. So it's an interesting platform to sell, and certain types of products and services want to be in that space. I think definitely the viewership inside the Porsche Carrera Cup Asia, the kind of people that watch it, they're a specific target, a relevant target, and they have a certain interest in motor racing where they can get close enough to the car to touch it, to feel it, maybe to sit inside it, sometimes maybe even get to drive it on a test day, on a practice day. So it gives high net worth individuals the contact to get much closer than you can get to Formula One. So I think that's where people can relate to it and people can really, really enjoy it and start to put money into the sport.
Okay, it's a little bit more intimate in that sense.
Yeah, very much so. I think in Asia, people want to get close to these things, and
Yeah.
Formula One's only starting to create that. And the other great thing about Porsche Carrera Cup is inside the Chinese markets or in the Asian markets, maybe people are not used to looking at single-seater cars like Formula One. So when you see a Formula One car, people are not sure which brand it's from and stuff. But with GT racing, like a Porsche 911 or a Ferrari 488 or a Lamborghini Huracan, they recognize the car, they recognize the brand, the way that they present the brand to us and the hospitality and everything. So it makes Asian investors quite happy, I guess.
Being accessible as well.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk a little bit about the success you've had on the track. Tell us a bit about it, and on the average, what's prize money like?
So
I'm very Singaporean this morning.
So prize money is bugger all, Elliott. there's next to no prize money in our sport at this level.
Okay.
But it gets funded with sponsorship.
Okay.
So coming back to the Carrera Cup marketing trampoline, they have massive viewership, like tens of millions of viewers and so on and so forth. So we can sell that package to the sponsor.
I see.
Yeah.
So this is part of the pitch process.
Yeah, absolutely. So the great thing about Porsche Carrera Cup is that because it's been around for so long, there is a big following already,
Okay.
and the following grows every year.
Okay.
Social media in China and Thailand have helped that a lot because their numbers are massive. So if they get it right, it really goes.
Okay.
So it gives Chinese companies, Thai companies, Japanese companies the opportunity to come into a place where they get instant results. Whether it be for branding or whether it be to pitch a specific product or service that they can leverage. So it's a good place for them to go.
Well, speaking of sponsorship and the money that you get from it, do you have to be of a certain level of a racer, like you have to be winning all the time to get more money? And what happens to the team at the bottom of that? Do they get as much, or do they struggle more to get sponsorship?
I think getting results is quite important. Maybe not necessarily winning. I think sponsors look for
consistency.
A good balance between the kind of personality that you are.
Okay.
Can you represent their product and service well in an event or in a live situation? And so that's the presentation point of view. And then after that, you have the racing point of view. So obviously being on the podium is good because podium pictures mean often headline pictures. So I think finishing in the top three is very advantageous. Though once in a while we miss. There've been some Formula One legends that have won very little that are mega famous.
Yeah.
I remember when I was young, there was Jean Alesi, very charismatic driver, has driven for the best teams, has been at Benetton, has been at Ferrari, but he's won one race in his whole career. And he's still a legend. When you guys watch F1, you see Jean Alesi up there, going, So, I guess it's a little bit of everything.
This morning we're speaking with Yuey Tan, Singaporean professional racer. We're talking about the business professional racing. We've just talked about, bringing in sponsorship and the pitching for these sponsorships. Is there usually a target number in terms of how much you need to raise for sponsorships? How long do these deals usually last? A year, 5?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a target, and the first target is always the cost of running the team.
Which is on the average? Would you know?
Which is on the average, I think per year in Carrera Cup is, I'd say, about 550, 600,000 euros.
Ooh, it's one HDB.
So it's got to be worth it.
Yeah.
Definitely one of the biggest benefactors of our careers have been car dealerships, especially from China, because when you open a Porsche dealership in China, you sell a lot of cars.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes. And because they sell Porsche 911s, it kind of makes sense to market inside Porsche Motorsport. So that's one of the examples of sponsorship. Yeah.
All right. What about we perceive it as glamorous. Everyone wants to be a racer. Elliott wants to be one.
It's not happening.
I gave up a long time ago because, I'm not a competitive person. Also, behind that glamour, though, what are the challenges of being a full-time racer? Do you have to stay fit all the time because you have to stay light? And the age as well. Does that matter in this kind of sport?
Yeah, I mean, fitness is a really big thing. Inside the car that we drive at the Singapore Grand Prix, the car cabin
They're
temperature.
very tiny, right?
Yeah, no, well, it's a GT car, so it looks like a 911. It's not that small inside, but temperatures reach almost 60 degrees Celsius during the Singapore Grand Prix, and we have no cooling systems. Or there is a water system. You can pump cold water through your body, but your car goes slower because it's not included in the minimum weight. So all the competitive guys don't use it, and fitness plays definitely a massive part in it. Sorry, what was that second part to that question?
Did you have to be light?
Yeah. So basically, in Porsche Carrera Cup, there is a regulation where the driver plus all the gear has to meet an 85 kilogram weight target.
There you go. That disqualifies me.
And if it doesn't disqualify you, you can drive the car. It just means goes a little bit slower. But for guys, a lot of us still try and remain light. Like I'm much lighter than 85 kilos because once you add the weight, you can add the weight to balance the car up. So it makes a little bit of a difference. Maybe it makes half a tenth of a second a lap, but every little bit counts.
We're going to get into traffic and then come back and talk about another aspect of your life, the business that you run. But before we do that, I'd like to bring in on the conversation your business partner, your wife, Clare Jedrek, who is a new mom and now an expecting mom again. And also, you are a professional racer. I won't say you're retired, just maybe taking a break out of it. Your thoughts on challenges as a female racer, and have you ever sorted out who's faster, you or Yuey?
That would be me, Elliott.
Thanks, and welcome, guys, for taking me on the show. And I think that's a constant talk on the show. Usually just for karting, I think on the track, the actual race circuit, he's definitely faster. Faster car.
In terms of a female racer, challenges?
The challenges, I think it's just getting up to speed. I started quite late in life and just getting behind the science of driving. It's more mental capacity over physical for me, really.
Okay.
I think physical you can work in, but the mental capacity to be able to learn, get up to speed, that probably is the biggest challenge.
All right, we'll return and talk about this business that the both of you run. And yes, it's got to do with four wheels as well. Hey, good morning. It's Elliott Danker and Timothy Goh with you. This morning, we're talking to the co-founders of the Karting Arena, Yuey Tan and Clare Jedrek. They're also professional racers, though. Clare is now an expecting mom again. Guys, you've got a son, another one on the way. Nico Rosberg, F1 champion, once told me that he never let his daughter race, not in a million years. What about the both of you?
Well, I think this topic has cropped up recently. Second one's a girl. It doesn't make a difference, girl or boy. And it's come up where we think about, where do we put our finances in future? Are we going to segregate some of that for the racing? And I think, yes, if they want to, then we will segregate with this motorsport or something else. But I think it will be to a point of time then. It'll be up to us then to teach them how to get sponsorship.
But that's where you come in, Yuey.
Very important.
Getting sponsorship. All right, let's talk about the Karting Arena. It's been operational for a couple of years now?
Yeah, about 3.5 years now. Yeah, the Karting Arena's been around.
It's a great location. I've been there. What goes into the cost of running a place like this?
I guess our two biggest costs at the Karting Arena would be manpower and the land.
Okay.
And over the time in which we opened it, unfortunately, both of those costs have gone up.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I think it is the same challenge for every business in Singapore, right? The property you're at and the manpower.
Yeah.
But what about equipment for you guys, though?
The equipment's not too bad. It gets provided by an Italian karting company called Birol, which is very, very established around the world. Like if you can think of your BMWs and Mercedes-Benzes for cars.
But maintaining these cars,
kind of thing. Yeah, the maintenance is okay. I think maintenance really comes down to manpower, and manpower really comes down to training them to do the right thing. I think one of the issues that we've had over time is I find in Singapore, compared to where I grew up in Australia, using your hand